Hi, I'm Margot McKinnon. I'm the author of the book, The Exquisiteness of Being Human, The Body, Mind, Spirit, Soul, Oneness, Dominance Theory. In my first video, I took up the topic of explaining the dominance theory, so if you'd like to have a look at that one. Today I'm taking up the topic of being invisible. Because last time I talked about what does it mean to be body dominant or mind dominant, spirit dominant, soul dominant, or oneness dominant as a personality type. Today, spirit dominant, one of the issues with spirit dominant people is this feeling of being invisible. And I want to speak to that today. How do you know if you're an invisible person? First of all, the easiest one is you feel like an invisible person. You feel that nobody in the room sees you. You feel that you can glide into a room and take a seat somewhere off to the side and nobody sees you. Secondly, you find that you wear all black, all blue, monochromatic colors, often baggy clothes, sometimes a hoodie, to keep yourself hidden or invisible. You find that when you're in a meeting or in a family gathering, when everybody's talking and you're trying to find your opportunity to get in there and make a point, that you have a hard time getting in there because everybody seems to naturally know where the breaks in the conversation are and how to get in there, but you don't have that same sense. But when you do find your moment to speak, people get up and get a cup of coffee. Oh no, keep going, I'm listening. Or they take a big Kleenex out of their purse and start blowing their nose. No, keep going, I'm listening. Or they get their phone out and they start scrolling through their phone. No, I'm listening. No, you're not listening. You're invisible to them. Sometimes you find that whenever you get to a doorway, you're always the one opening the door. And somebody goes right on through. They might not even say hello or thank you. When you're hiking and you're on a narrow path, you're always the one that steps aside and the other people go charging on through. And here's another one that used to really, was a big one for me. People did not respect my time. And so they expected me to show up whenever they wanted. They could phone me at all hours of the day or night as if my time was invisible, that my life and how I wanted to live it was invisible to them. This used to happen until I decided that I wasn't going to be invisible anymore. And it was a challenge, and I have to say it took me years to actually master the art of being visible. But I want to share with you today how I got started on that. But I'm going to give you an example, as I always like to do, a story, so you can see what I'm talking about. When I had my younger son, I was in the hospital. Extra time because it was a precarious birth and we both really suffered, so we had to stay in some extra days. When I arrived home from the hospital, my sister handed me my next door neighbor's keys and said, "Oh, your neighbor came by. She wants you to look after her cat. She's gone on holiday." And I said, "Did you explain to her that I was in the hospital and I had a very dangerous birth?" Well, she knew that already, and she knew you had to stay in extra time. She put 2 extra days of cat food for the cat. This person did not care one bit about me, my time. I was invisible to her. Everything about me was invisible. I was an instrument to feed her cat. Today I want to show you 5 things I did to make myself visible so that you can start enjoying the exquisiteness of your life. So the first thing I did when I decided to become visible and to change my life because I wanted to find the exquisiteness of my human experience. I didn't want to be invisible anymore because I was wasting so much of my life being invisible. I wanted to really live my life. So the first thing I did was I bought colored clothes. My new rule was if it's black, put it back. No more baggy black tops, black bottoms, black sweater. Black, black, black. No, I love black clothing, love the little black dress, but I couldn't have a whole closet full of black clothes. The second thing I did was I went over to my hairstylist and I said, could you cut my hair, please, so that I cannot get a hair tie in it to put it in a ponytail. It has to be cut with layers in it, and so that I can easily take care of it, because I'm not a body dominant person who likes to fuss about my hair. I still need a nice haircut, but nothing I can put a ponytail as my go-to. The third thing I did was when I became more conscious of when I was stepping aside for other people. So if I were hiking and somebody were coming down, I gave myself the 50% rule. 50% of the time I'll step aside, and 50% of the time I will wait for the other person to step aside. And I would choose, obviously. So if a mother and her 3 little kids were coming down, obviously I stepped aside. But I had a look and I consciously said, I'm not going to be always the one who steps aside. The fourth thing I did was in meetings, if somebody decided that when it was my turn to talk that it was fine to get up and get a cup of coffee or blow their nose, that I decided I would just stop and wait. Oh no, keep going, I'm just blowing my nose. I know, when you're finished, then I'll start. That takes a lot of practice and a lot of guts. Because when you're invisible, you're used to nobody listening to you. And so to wait for them to finish blowing their nose or getting their coffee, or saying when you finish scrolling through your phone, I'll start, it takes some guts. It takes some getting used to. The fifth thing I did was set boundaries for people like my neighbor. I was not available all day and night. In that case, what was I to do? She was already on holiday. I had to go and feed her cat for 2 weeks, and here I was hobbling over there having just given birth to my 3rd baby. But after that, that's when I wisened up and I said, I am invisible to her. And here was the thing I realized, was that I felt like a ghost in my own life. So if your spirit can come out when you die, it can come out while you're alive, and you can feel like a ghost now. Well, I didn't want to be a ghost in my own life. I really want to live it. That's why I called my book The Exquisiteness of Being Human. So I am now committed to this, and I want to share with you. It takes a lot of practice, though, not being invisible anymore. A lot of practice. And in fact, it took me years to really gain courage and to practice what I had to say in front of people. So where am I now in my process? Well, I have very few black things in my closet anymore, but I do still like my black sweater from time to time. But I did one thing while I was trying to become more visible, something that really scared me, and that was that when I was teaching, because I used to be a high school teacher, and when I was teaching, I was really shy and nervous to get up and speak in front of a crowd. So to have all eyes on me, especially when I felt invisible, all eyes on me and all people listening to me, that was really, really scary. But I didn't want to live like that anymore, because I had written my book. And how was I supposed to speak to anybody about it if I were too shy? I had to get over it. I had to learn how to stop being invisible. I took on a role at school. It was only 5 minutes every month at our staff meeting, where I had to get up in a theater and present for 5 minutes the findings of this study group that I was in at school. I remember for the first 2 weeks, like the 2 weeks prior to me having to get up there, I was so nervous because I would really flush and everything, and you could just tell that I was nervous when I was speaking. Then it came down to a week before I had to get up. Then it became down to the morning that I had to get up there, and I remember the time I got up there, I gave my 5 minutes, I sat down, and I thought, I just forgot to get nervous. It took practice. It took courage, first of all, to get up there and decide to do that. It was a decision I made because I didn't want to live in the background anymore. I wanted to live my life. I took that on, and then I started speaking about my book all over the place. And last week, I was at a teachers' convention, and I was on a stage with a wireless mic pack on, and I had a crowd of 200 in my audience, and I loved it. I loved every second of it. I had to speak for 70 minutes. I loved it. And I had to give 6 presentations last week to teachers. And I remember one of the audience said, but what about people who are afraid? Like, not like you, you're comfortable up there. And I said, oh, I wasn't always comfortable up here. I used to be quite invisible. And now I want to teach you, but it takes time. So the first thing you can do if you wanted to learn my model of how not to be invisible, you can buy my book. It's $25. It's an investment of 3 hours of your time if you're a quick reader. Read this and you'll get a lot of tips in here. If you want to book me for your organization where you want me to come in and talk to people about not being invisible, then book me. If you want me to talk about my model, that's great. Go on my website and you can send me an email. And if you want a one-on-one, because you need coaching, I help people go in for job interviews, and I practice with them because you have to have the body language that says that you're not afraid or intimidated or invisible. I teach people how to do that. I teach people how to get up on stage and feel comfortable. I teach people how to dress so that they are not invisible anymore, so that they can have their hair cut in a beautiful way. The trick is, once you have people listening and seeing you, then you have to be comfortable with that attention. And I teach people how to be comfortable with that too. So please, I look forward to your comments. I love it. I love to hear from everybody. Look, and please subscribe if you want to hear, because I'm probably going to put a video out maybe once a week. And so if you subscribe, you'll know when it's ready to go. Tell your friends about this. If you have any invisible friends, have them watch it. Those 5 keys changed my life. Thank you. Enjoy your week. Have a gorgeous one. See you soon.